So I'm James, or I go by Felty online because when I play video games, I don't go by James. It's not, my middle name's kind of semi-unique, so that's why I'm like on Twitter at Felty256. You see me in a video game, it's probably something like Felty or Baron von Felty, depending on what future or like a medieval role-playing game. All right, one second. There we go. I'll probably switch back and forth between the two when I show you the code, because I do want to actually show you these things in action. But basically, I founded a company in 2017 called VidYen LLC, probably right when Bitcoin was skyrocketing. But originally, I called it VidYen because when I started, before I actually found out about web mining, I do like what they call reward sites, where basically, you got like gamers that live with their parents, they're in their college, they don't have jobs, don't have income, but they're willing to do activities like watch, advertisements through AdSense or Want Ads, and we just arbitrarily give them points, and those points can get a gift card, and I make the plugins for people who want to do that. But around that time, let's get into the history. Let's go ahead and cover what we're going to cover. We're going to cover history, technology, code, deployment, ethics, use cases, and security. I think the biggest drawback when I tried to start this with CoinHive, and we'll get into it a little bit more later, is that a lot of people didn't take kindly to this because the way it was originally deployed. How many of you are familiar with how regular mining works, like the ASIC miners? Okay. If you're familiar with that, you just you purposely install some software on your computer, or you buy like a hardware device. You're aware of what's going on. Unless there are cases where people have installed regular miners through malware, but it's usually a little harder to do. You got to get your device rootkit or something like that to break into your system. But with web mining, it's a lot easier. That's where therein lies the issue. So some history. Back in 2011, around when Bitcoin was still kind of coming out of onto its own. There's a website called Bitcoin Plus. There's not many of these sites. Originally, Bitcoin, when they first were mining it, you could just do it on your CPU. And this website figured out they can just do it through a browser. Don't have to install software. There's not much information left on this site, but apparently it was a thing. But as soon as graphics cards and ASIC processors came out, you couldn't compete with the processing power of those devices, and now literally even GPU miners have an issue competing with ASIC miners. So that site went away really quick. I think there was an MIT in 2004 that did a project, but they just went away too. So fast forward to 2017, there's a lot of new altcoins. It's becoming the great bull market run of December of 2017. There was a coin, Manero, and I remember when this came out, Manero was $98. I think, to give a reference, it's now at 50 something, 51. So it's almost double what it is now. But it was becoming popular, and this company, very mysterious. All I know is they're out of Germany. I've talked to them through email, but not, every now and then you'll see investigative reports back on who these people really were. And it's very, I won't say mysterious, but they didn't give much information about what they were doing. So I found out about CoinHive. Basically, I was looking in Wired. Basically, there was this article that said your browser could be mining cryptocurrency for a stranger, and I was just learning how. I was looking at Bitmain stuff, and that was kind of interesting to me, how you could change computational power into actual cryptocurrency without actually involving real money or an exchange. And I was learning about how cryptocurrency, how you're validating the blocks and so on. But then I saw this and I said, wait a minute, because I had been going through the process of installing the software, buying ASICs, and I realized, so you're telling me all you need is a browser. You don't actually download a program, because that's one thing. If you're kind of security oriented, you don't want to really download random stuff off the internet like executables and and install stuff you're not aware of, especially if you're just going to a website that just get a free gift card. You're not going to download a program to do that. So this required nothing to install. But the issue, if you actually get to the story, there's a link if you get the presentation later. They put it on Pirate Bay, which was the notorious movie download site. The reason Pirate Bay did this is because they could no longer get advertisers, and literally they were blacklisted. They couldn't even get any even really shady advertisers to do that because they've been banned from so many countries. So they installed the CoinHive script, and they didn't tell anybody. It just like they went on there, and you go to the website, and your CPU would go up to 100%. It's like, geez, this site's very inefficient. And then somebody looked at it and discovered that, you know, they're mining cryptocurrency, and Pirate Bay admitted to it. They took it off. Then they put it on several times without telling people. And eventually they said, well, if you're doing our site, you have to use it. I don't know what their status is now, but I know they still have their issues with advertisers. So I looked at it and I said, well, this is a terrible concept where you do it without permission. But what if you actually, you know, had a website and you let the users know? Because one of the things I hated at the time is like pop-up ads and advertisements that pop over videos. And this was before Brave browser, but I was using things like AdBlock Plus on Firefox and uBlock on Chrome because I hate ads. I remember when, you know, it's just, to me, it's like, I know what people say where you're stealing their money, but some of the stuff's like really annoying, especially ads that play sounds right away. So, but the idea that you could make money off people visiting your site without actually having to sit through an interruption to your service, it's kind of like a Netflix. You know, you go to it, you don't have commercials, and that's the thing. But you are helping the site monetize in the background. They did have some interesting tools, and unfortunately, it no longer works. I got a screenshot of this. The site of CoinHive.com is still up, but it's no longer working. You can go there and get the documentation. Some of their cool tools they came up with was a simple miner, which basically the user is aware that they're mining because it's telling you this is and you can control the experience, how many threads, how many speeds, and it would tell you how many hashes you had. And what I was emailing back and forth, because my system required user rewards, there was an API that actually tracked through JavaScript. You could say, okay, hey CoinHive, this user who's mining, and their API system would tell you that user has mined this much. And they actually had an interesting debit and credit system. You could talk to there through JSON API. Sadly, it's no longer up, so I couldn't really show it to you. But basically, you could actually say, this user mined so much, let's withdraw and credit him his amount. And you can say, this user earned 5,000 points, and they can get a coupon or gift card or whatever. And the second one, which I unfortunately have not investigated further, was the Captcha System. It was similar to the Google Captcha with the click all the pictures. To me, this is less annoying than trying to hunt all the pictures, because some of those I don't know why they don't. You have to try it like 3 times. But this basically runs like a set amount of hashes. The problem, and I often emailed them back and forth, is that you could not actually control the CPU usage. So you ran that and it would run 100%, and you just have to sit there and wait for it to go before you go on. But sadly, they had some great tools. However, everyone was blocking them. Like I think Symantec had blacklisted them. Malwarebytes immediately, if you had Malware's Premium, it would immediately block the site. uBlock had blocked it as well, and pretty much it was like when I was testing this with some friends and some random test users, either they freak out because they're an antivirus pop-up, or it just wouldn't work because these people had ad block like me, and just you had to turn it off. And some people were okay turning it off, but some people were kind of reluctant because of the red warning sign from Symantec or whatever antivirus they're using. So mid 2000 or early 2018, CoinHive made this thing called Authmine, which basically the JavaScript script actually gave you a user consent. There was in order to get the JavaScript to run, you'd have to have some kind of a consent system. There's a little pop-up that used to say, hey, we're mining your cryptocurrency, whatever, blah, 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 and you go on. However, let me see if that... Hold on one second. I missed a screenshot, sorry. There's actually there was a quote on another page from an example code, which actually showed you, here's the Authmine. The issue was at the very bottom of the page, if you don't want consent, add this line of code, and the user will not be informed that you're mining. And it's like, and Authmine, even though they said that was you had to go through that URL to get to it, it got blocked immediately too. So it was like that idea of theirs died in a day. And unfortunately, CoinHive just never. I think they were making too much money from people mining without consent to not go legit. Question?
Are you talking about transparency? The importance of transparency, and they didn't have it. That's why.
Yeah. So you would go to a website like you're reading a blog, and it just looks like a blog, and all of a sudden you wouldn't notice it. It's like you're looking at this, and your CPU is mining 100%. You probably wouldn't notice it except for the fact that everything got really slow, and maybe your fan and battery went down. Yeah. So you would probably notice it. And the sad thing is, you could actually control that so you're only mining 10%, but most of these people that ran the stuff, they didn't think about, well, even if we're not going to tell them, we're still going to run 100%. If they ran it at 10%, no one would have noticed. But every of these sites that got hit, or that were doing it, were greedy, and they obviously, if they're not giving you consent, they're probably going to get as much out of you as possible. Meanwhile, while that was going on, the other issues that many people had kind of decided CoinHive was just too hard to work with and rely on, because they were actually a centralized service. They would deploy their JavaScript through, unfortunately I don't have this anymore because it's all gone. You would go to something like the server name .coinhive.com/JS. It's basically they have the JS stored on their server, so all you have to do is add 3 lines of code onto your page. It would load that. But it was very easy to block because anything that says CoinHive in it, or Hive or Coin, you're just going to block it to the AV. And the company was also, it was a 25 or 20% minimum fee. And a lot of pools, generally, if you have a regular mining pool, some of those are free, or they're 3 to 6%. Probably the most on a regular pool is 10%. So a lot of people didn't like that. You had to go through them for the payout, and also they controlled the entire pool, which was not transparent. Like if you go to say Monero Ocean or Support XMRM or one of the other ones, they generally showed you exactly what's going on. It was kind of open system. You just kind of it was just like a blank wall, and they kind of adjusted the payout system arbitrarily. And sometimes I almost thought they were faking hashes, or they would lie about the rates, and no one could be able to prove it because it was very opaque. There's no transparency. So people also realized, well, what if we use regular mining pools and just kind of avoid them altogether? So they came to a group together, got a Webminer pool came about. I wouldn't say he's like an anonymous like Satoshi or the Wimble and Nibble guy, but I've never, he's just some guy on GitHub that released this. And this is probably like a fourth of the forks. If you go down there, it probably goes to the floor of how many forks this guy has. So you can get this yourself. If you go to github.com, it's notgetting68 Webminer pool. To kind of give it a little background of why what's going on with Manero and why they were using Manero instead of the other stuff like Bitcoin, is that Manero has what they call the anti-ASIC. We'll get back to that in a little bit, but it was easier. Basically, the Manero devs were very open about how you I guess the best way to put it is that they kind of supported low-end systems, whereas Bitcoin was doing ASICs. So the GitHub system was mostly open source MIT. It can be installed on Debian or any backend. JavaScript files can be installed locally. This is probably the most important thing. You can kind of do this with CoinHive, but it wasn't very easy with them. The reason why JavaScript files installed locally is fine is because the site itself becomes the point of the block. So if the site's if you had CoinHive, their central site, you just block them, but with, say, some random WordPress site, they can install the JavaScript files locally, and your AV or whatever wouldn't know who this was, never seen it before. The other thing is that you can also mine Manero pools alongside regular miners, which means there's some people who do this where they mine with their browser mine, but they also got like a rig of dozens of GPUs, and they can just mine to the same pool. So now fast forward to 2008, there's the bear market and the ASIC problem with Manero. So originally, I think in 2018, the highest price was $300, and then it crashed probably 40. I think it's now up to 51. And also that was the world hash rate, which is pretty high, 700 for Manero. If you look at Bitcoin, it's like terahashes, but that kind of freaked out the Manero community, and the profitability of mining through the browser just plummeted. Like, I'd almost say like, well, originally it was like at 200, so I guess like a 4 times profit loss. So just a lot of people gave up on it. So Manero devs respond as normal, and this is one of the reasons why CoinHive went with them originally, is that the Manero devs they're kind of their own thing. They really don't care about CoinHive or anything else, but they do have a policy that they're going to kick the ASIC chips off the network regularly. And when that hash rate went the second 700 mega hashes, they knew there was a problem. Normally they were going to do it in April. For the fork, they actually did it like 4 weeks earlier, and just kind of like, all right, we're going to fork, kick all the ASICs off. And the hash rate, I think, went down to 200. Now it's 300. So the profitability is back again. However, but CoinHive calls it quits because when they did that, they made the algorithms a little more intensive that CPUs by themselves can't handle. So just a word about the JavaScript technology. There's no GPU involved. Even though browsers do have like GPU processing, the JavaScript virtual machines run only on the CPU side of things. So you're not, it's specifically mining on that resource. And there's a lot of Manero miners that use graphics cards, but the new one made mining on a CPU a little bit more difficult, and a lot of other things, speculation of why they shut down, and really no one really knows. Like they had stopped kind of towards November, probably earlier than that, they stopped responding to my emails, and I had gotten to Webminer pool, so I'd kind of stopped talking to them, and they never responded back. So it's kind of going to be a mystery why they really, but they cite the it's no longer economically viable and the hash rate, but they just kind of disappeared and closed shop. It almost makes me wonder if they may come back as something else, but who knows. But web mining still persists. There was this pool owner named, his pool's called Manero Ocean, and he's kind of, are anyone familiar with NiceHash? You ever heard of it? NiceHash was, they're still around, but they do like the GPU mining. They were back in 2017. What they realized is you could just randomly pick the highest coin that's the most profitable to mine and use that coin and mine it and then just pay the users out in Bitcoin. If you heard about NiceHash, side note, they got hacked last year and made a lot of people angry, but they're finally paying back, but not related to any of this because there's just regular mining through the regular stuff. But Manero Ocean, he realized, and he was doing this with his regular GPU. He supports web mining, but he's not really. That's not his thing. He just, you guys, you can use my service, but you don't. You're cool and all, but he came up with the technology, and then figured out, okay, so if we make the Webminer mine these altcoins which have different difficulties, we can pick the one that's most profitable, because originally he was doing Manero, and when Manero crashed, all like CoinHive just, they were suffering, they lost a lot. Well, I don't know if they were losing money, but they weren't making as much money. But they figured out that if you use a system that picks one of the altcoins at random, there's a couple more on here like Masari. I think they're actually going to be using BitTube eventually, because they discovered they can use that crypto or the algorithm. So it picks the one that's the most profitable and mines that. And if you watch the miners, they actually switch back and forth and go on. So let me know if I'm going to run out of time, because there's a lot of material. All right, so here's an example of the mining. The CN1 was the original Manero, and there's all the forks. And these are like the altcoins when we get here. So generally, when you're doing the mining now, it switches between these two, which seems to be the most profitable, the Pico and the CN half. Those are the kind of the altcoins. I think one of them is Masari, and the other one's one of the other Manero. All right, so let's get in the code. All these are open source. Not Givens is MIT. My client stuff, I fork the Vips plugin is for WordPress. It's all GPL2 because that's the requirement to be on the WordPress repository. Side note, the WordPress people are seemingly open and okay about the whole Webminers on their repositories. So they just told me I can't do anything shady. So, but I had to do GPL3. So any of this is open source. You can download it, mess with it, do whatever you want with it. All right, so let's take a look at some of the code. Are most of you generally know JavaScript, work primarily with that? So let me just go ahead and show you let's talk about the backend. The backend is hold on one second. There we go. More. This is, the backend is actually not given use mono. I guess .NET, but you do it on you can do it on a Debian system. It's kind of weird running a Microsoft compiled thing on a Debian, but this is generally this is actually some of the crypto algorithms. It's math heavy, and generally I don't look at this or mess with it because it's generally determined by people above the web mining. You know, the Manero, the people who run the actual coin. So we don't really mess with that, but they compile with like the different pools. There's a list of pools and which algorithm. I think Manero's Ocean's on here, and it'll tell you what algorithm they're using in the passwords. So this is all, it's MIT license, and basically this is all C and C#. So let's get into the JavaScript. So this is the worker. All right, side note, if you're seeing my code, I actually don't use the word miner or anything related to that, because it turns out they actually look for things that say, I think it's like webmine.js, miner.js, immediately get blocked by a lot of software. So generally when I'm doing this, even though I'm asking consent in a lot of my programs, I generally use euphemisms like worker, employee. So it's generally, and it's pretty much all JavaScript. This is the one I wanted. It's pretty much like you basically get basically the way it works. It's almost like a four-party system. There's the client, there is the site that they're getting the JavaScript from, like the reward site or whoever's running it, and then there's the web pool or the Webminer pool server. Which actually does the talking to the actual pool. So it's kind of amazing. There's four parties talking to each other, and if one of them doesn't work, then it all doesn't work. So basically, the client talks to the website talks to the client and says, "Here's the JS." They talk through a WebSocket protocol to the Webminer pool, the Webminer, and it can actually be on the pool itself, but generally they're separate unless the pool doesn't. If the pool doesn't want to run it, and it sends it to the, and then the Webminer pool talks to the real pool, and they get a job from them. They feed it out to all the clients, and they will do the hash work, and they send it back. So you can see here the different types of algorithms, functions, whether the job's successful. So it's kind of amazing. This is all running on the virtual machine, and let me show you what I do, because I'm in the WordPress world. I do like a really I wouldn't say terrible, but WordPress requires you to do PHP. So I'm kind of combining PHP with regular HTML and JavaScript, so it looks pretty mishmashed together. And the other thing, the problem with this is that when the algorithm changes or they do a fork, the JS files also have to update. So I kind of cram everything into the PHP to update, and with the variables and so. And basically, there's I'm pulling information from the pool through Ajax to get the hash update. So let's go ahead and any questions in the code? Sure.
So I'm trying to understand this. I visit a site with my browser, and a whole bunch of shit comes back to me.
Yeah.
And says, hash this for me.
Yeah.
And am I sharing in the wealth of that?
Depends on the site owner.
So the site determines whether I share.
Yeah, it's pretty much whoever is involved.
But it surprises me that it always seemed to me that mining was a very competitive thing. It feels like how could you ever win if you're not directly against the...
That's a good thing.
The question's totally ridiculously ill-formed.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying, because generally, if you talk to regular GPU miners in the world, they're very competitive because they're paying for electricity. The downside and upside of this is that the person doing the mining, they're not mining enough to get a more like $100 electric bill, but the site owner is not paying for the electricity either. So it's like you're distributing the electricity cost across 100 or 1,000 users, and the bill for that, it's almost like you've got free resources. Does that make sense?
Almost. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Do they win often?
It's using a pool a pool system. So when you're on the pool, you get a share. Like, you're not going to get the entire block. And just to give some fundamentals, maybe actually, do I have it in the browser open? I can show you really quick. Yeah, I got Manero Ocean open. Here's the pool itself. And this is, I'm earning 2 cents a day on 4 test, well, not 4 test. Let me see who's on it right now. I know that's one of the users because he's on the Fabius clone folder. That's a cell phone, and I know the dude that tests. He loves to test this on a cell phone. This is actually an i7, and this is one of the back-end servers mining. So between these three, you're earning 2 cents a day on Manero. That's not very much. Not when you're used to making $1 a day. But if you scale that up to 100 or 1,000 users, 1,000, it depends. And there's some people out there that claim to have 80,000 people doing this for them. I don't think it's a consent system, but there's a lot of people on these forks that they make claims, and it does make sense. I do see these wallets that I kind of plug in and actually see what's going on. Some of them do make money off that much. Hmm?
So the high level idea though is that you're a site owner, and if you have a popular site, you can install this JavaScript, and while people are visiting your site, they're mining crypto.
That is correct. Yeah.
So they're not getting any of the rewards. You are, right?
The site owner gets the rewards. So there's it's like one of those philosophies where it depends on the site owner's choice. Like when you go to YouTube, the user's reward is the video content.
Yeah.
So he's not expecting to get paid in crypto. But it's kind of it's an intangible reward that they're getting. There are some sites, I made a site called Manero Share, because somebody just literally asked me to do it as a 5-minute project, maneroshare.io. And literally, now this is also common, where you plug in your, I think I might have a wallet that no, I don't have a wallet saved, but basically actually I can grab one really quick. We're going to go off topic. We'll go to the next thing, because I think actually maybe I should demonstrate it first before getting into the code. It's almost it's a very flexible use case. It's like advertising. Sometimes your content is the reward, or you're doing a reward site where you're getting paid gift cards. So let me grab there's my donate page. I'm going to grab so literally I put this on here. Blockchain, type today, and I can mine crypto through this website directly to my wallet. Now it'll be a very small amount, but this got requested to me because when CoinHive shut down, guy says, well, I just get my friends to go to CoinHive Simple Miner and put in my address. I've got 5 friends doing this, or I don't know if he's going around to all his family's computers, and he maybe has a bunch of machines doing this, and this mines directly to his wallet directly. So he's getting, whoever's using Manero.io is getting the crypto reward. It's not like an intangible reward. So it can be done either way. So you can use this technology to mine for you, especially for people who aren't technically knowledgeable, or they don't want to install software, they don't have a good computer, or they just have a bunch of friends that are willing to do this for them. I got these little animated miners. Yes?
In this whole chain, so what, you said 2 cents a day earlier as that example on a small machine. How much could it actually be behind the scenes, $2 a day, but you're only seeing 2 cents because you're entirely trusting someone else?
You're currently with this, at least with my software, I go through Manero Ocean. That's the other nice thing about doing Webminer Pool. because if you don't trust Manero Ocean and you program it all, you have a list of all these guys. These are all different people. So you can pick one of these. Some have better fees, some don't. If you use like one of my plugins through VidYen, I do Manero Ocean because I have a personal relationship with him, and he's always paid me. So it's like, and he does tech support for me as well when like this, they're having API issues. But unlike CoinHive, this is more decentralized. So if, for whatever reason you got mad at the Manero Ocean operator, you could go to like, My Manero Pro or one of the other. There's actually a copy of his called C3 Pool, which is interesting. This is like literally a copy and paste from Chinese. But I asked him, I was like, there's a guy in mainland China who paid me like $50 to copy, and I set up his site. So you can literally just get these copy and pastes of these pools, and they're just operate, because all the power is coming from the miners. They're just kind of working together to get the blocks. So.
Does the software, does it use straight up to get jobs from it?
It uses, all right, so the pools itself have its own stratum. Unfortunately, I don't have like a connection to a Debian server to show you. But basically, there's a software terminal or kind of log on the Debian server, whatever you're using, that gets the jobs. And then it determines how many clients, and it cuts the job up and sends it out to the clients, because obviously these web miners aren't going to be doing very big jobs. And oftentimes these jobs are redundant because somebody closes their browser, the job's done with, so maybe there's like 2 jobs running at the same time with the same job check. So it's pretty much, it's a very inefficient system because you are running through the browser, and again, it's not, generally professional miners don't shut their rigs off in the middle of doing something, where somebody has the computer, when they're done with the website, they go off and they just maybe on there for like a minute or so.
So your backend talks to the pool,
Yeah.
stratum, and then pushes jobs up to the client.
Yeah, it's basically the pool. The pools don't like it when there's a lot of workers.
Right.
So that's usually they know when there's a botnet, is that basically there's like 1,000 workers going to this one wallet, or 1,000 connections. They probably don't care as much as workers, but they want you to go through a single proxy. So the Webminer pool itself is a proxy to the pool. So it actually, all the web clients talk to it through a WebSocket, and then it talks to the pool itself.
Got it. So as an operator of something that wants to run this software, you don't have to run straight on your servers.
No, I mean, you could. Like the Manero Ocean guy, he actually has a fork of not given stuff. And he just has it there just so you can test it out on his website. Actually, I think, hold on. He does have like little, like if you're just playing around with it, you have like, he has a little Webminer, but you don't have to have it. Like some pool owners don't have anything to do with web mining. The Webminer pool server talks to their server, and that's pretty much, it sees the Webminer pool server as like a regular miner that just, does weird, has a lot of, seems to have a lot of workers.
So there's your worker.
Yeah, it's the blockchain is mining. I think this computer's not great, and the main issue with Manero Ocean is API is kind of delayed, so it's probably like a minute delay, but eventually it goes through. And I don't think I was. And there's probably another reason, because when I'm switching tabs, we'll get into the security side of this. I'm using Brave, so when I switch tabs, the mining stops. So we'll get into that a little bit. So basically, it seems very inefficient, like 2 cents a day. But if you had a large user base and they weren't upset at you, and they, like I said, if you do this without consent, eventually they're going to find out. Even if you kind of do low CPU, because let's see if I can go under. So I can just hit Control-Shift-J. Here's my little console about the stuff running. I turn this on for debugging, and so like if the user has issues, it'll read me off some of this stuff. But the sources, like you can literally see the worker.js running. So I can actually, there's a minimum of one, but you can see these little applications running in the JavaScript engine. So it's obvious that something's run. Even if you rename them to something like I do, like worker, there's obviously something that's running, and you are, like 70, like you notice it says like either this website's been coded really inefficiently or there's something going on. So if you are having one of the websites and you want to do this, my feeling is that you shouldn't try to hide it. People are getting knowledgeable about this these days. I've been around long enough that they're going to kind of think ill of you if you do that. And I generally like these little cute animations, so that come on, can I get it? It's a random one, but my RNG's been really. Come on, give me another one. There's like 4 different animations. Yeah, so it does. So to me, it's like you see somebody mining. To you, it's obviously that something's going on. So you hit start, and he starts to mine. So to me, there needs to be some type of, with the user, some type of idea something's going on. Otherwise, the whole concept of you using their resources may not fly. Any questions so far? So,
You said earlier that you're constrained by WordPress. Is that Manero or VidYen?
VidYen and Manero share. I'm a kind of a WordPress developer in a sense that it has a lot of database features because when people ask me to make reward sites, I don't want to have to rewrite the wheel for everything, and these people are often not technical. So you can, like with WordPress, you can install like WooCommerce, forums, moderation systems, and I don't have to write everything from scratch. Maybe I'm spending a lot of money, but I don't want to spend money writing your moderation system and forums. Those things already exist, and there's actually a really nice database system behind WordPress where you can track points by user by just adding lines in a table. So for me, it's like that. But like these other sites, like Manero Ocean, he doesn't even. It's all native code. Actually, let me see if I can find it. It's actually provided. Where's my view? I hit the close on the view things. Anymore? Nope, it's not. Sorry. Sorry, 1 second. I've never actually turned it off in Atom, and I've never. Does anyone know quick how to turn the little menu bar on the side again? Reload panes. First pane. Yeah, it's Atom. Like I'm using the little touchpad, and my hands never work. So split down, focus pane, developer, documenter. Splitting the entire thing, trying to find the command palette. Well, if I close it, I know it's not going to show up again. Yeah. Anyways, in the code itself, there is a. Let's see. 1 second. Where's my Git documents? GitHub. And the actual SDK, he literally has like an example HTML file. So you could actually just it's literally just an HTML file. So if you know that, you could literally just copy and paste this on any server that can run it's not even PHP, it's just JavaScript and plain HTML. And this is when I first started messing with this is what I started with. And I was moving it bits and pieces. Not everything that he has, unfortunately, it's one of those things that's not documented at all. He's usually he'll answer a question, but I actually was discovering hidden variables and like the current algorithm but you don't have to have WordPress. It's just one of those things. But you do need either you need to run the server yourself or know somebody that has the back-end server somewhere.
You can run any client device that can run JavaScript.
Yes. There's on the Webminer pool issues. There are some reports that phones in China have issues with it. Like I don't know which ones, but it's not like a standard phone. There is some issues with iOS that we've been looking at. The master dev has said he's looking into the issue, but we found you have to kind of lock the threads at 2 because apparently Apple has done something weird to their Java on the iPhone on Safari. So if you actually change the thread count, it blows up the memory. So we just kind of like, well, I put in code on my personal site that says if it detects an iPhone lock the threads at 2. So, but any modern device within the last 5 years will be able to run this. Any other questions?
Question right here.
Mm-hmm.
What's running the hashing algorithm? So it's a CPU, obviously.
Yeah, it's all CPU.
And it's is that like a Java service worker?
It's using the WASM. It's like the virtual machine that's built into the browser. I think this is almost one of those things that had the original people developing the JavaScript may have not included if they realized it would have been used for this. I think the guy that invented Brave said he had regrets, but not because of mining, but because of the whole pop-up ads and everything. The guy that used to work at Netscape. We'll get into a little bit more of what they've done to change that, to kind of cut down on those issues. But literally, when I first started doing this, it was very easy to lock up the computer because there was no safeties built into most of the browsers. So I could run like 20 threads and I forget that I was developing and had like 3 browsers open. Open a third one, the machine would like lock up. So it's not like it's kind of like running a video game that's not optimized and you're just running too much, because you can still do that. It's just there's more safeties now with the newer browsers. Even Edge, and we'll get into that in the security part, has safeties built in now.
Is there any movement toward using something like WebGL to leverage GPU?
That's a good question. It wasn't even something I was going to mention in the presentation, but there's I saw at GitHub, because this gets asked a lot, can we use a GPU grid? And somebody did put OpenGL in a browser, but he had to recompile the entire Linux kernel, and it would often crash the entire system. So it's possible, but you'd need to redo the entire OS because the graphics cards were never intended to interface directly with a browser. I think you could Unity things, like the Unity plugins for the video games. That might, but it still requires a little bit more. You have to install extra software, so it's not like you can just go on your phone or your gaming computer and expect it to work without installing software. And then you get back to the issue of, well, if I'm installing software, why don't I just install an XMR rig or one of the other native miners? All right, let's see.
So you said that you could kind of look at it as a way to replace advertising
Yes.
on the site? Do you have any sense for how it compares to advertising as far as revenue?
I know pretty much what I get the numbers from the company AdSend, because they pay, for every 3 ads, they pay a penny, but I think they're actually kind of high, because I hear YouTube content creators don't get much anymore. So it depends on the platform, but they will pay, or at least they claim to pay you 1 cent per ad, but they do have a high minimum payout, so you have to actually earn $100 before they actually pay you, and I suspect a lot of people sign up and don't meet the threshold, but that is the going rate. So in order to get a penny for mining, we'd have to have a single user mine all day. So in a reward site, watching ads would beat you, but that depends. It requires a human to sit there for the entire time to watch those ads, because some of those actually, like I was telling you earlier, AdSend has gotten pretty smart. They have JavaScript to check if the mouse moves or if you switch tabs. So it'll ask you, are you there? Like every 4th ad, click this captcha to make sure you're still here. So the same thing goes for the YouTube. But I hear with the ad block and the fact that YouTube doesn't pay anybody anymore. Now that you mentioned it, am I on VidYen? I actually did do an experiment called VidHash. It was for demonetized YouTube people. I got to turn the audio off. We're going to put this on YouTube because it's probably... I do have, everything I do has a consent system. So the idea was to play a video and you can control the experience. Don't mind those errors because most of those are the ad blockers. They're blocking the YouTube ads. So you can play the video. Oh, turn the sound off. You get a copyright ding. So it mines while it's playing, and you can kind of control the experience. I mean, you could technically turn it off and not do give them anything, but it's majority of the time you're never going to know how good their computer is. So if they're slowing down, give them the option to turn the things down. So wait, it's stop. the miner stops. And because actually YouTube has a really interesting API function. It's like, if Google would ever get on board, but I doubt it because they're so entrenched in advertising, they literally, the tools are already there. They could just open source this off of Webminer pool and do it themselves, which I guess would totally crush me in the water, but I don't think Google's going to do that anytime soon. So it's basically, it's a way to watch videos. The downside is this, that you'd actually have to have it on your WordPress site or a third-party site, because there's no way you can load JavaScript directly on YouTube. So you're going to have to tell your users, I'm not making any money and they're not paying me, so you'll have to go to this site and watch my videos there, and they have to go through the process of embedding the video every time. So unfortunately, if the content creator is not technical, there's a little barrier to that. But it's just experimental. I know one person uses it, and every now and then when I break something, I get somebody complaining. So I know there's people that use it. So it's generally like an idea to replace ads.
Basically, if they directly click the YouTube, watch your video,
Yeah.
you wouldn't get anything, right?
Well, it depends on the user, like the content creator, because if they're making a lot of money with ads, there's no reason to do this. But let's say you're not making any ad money. This might be a consideration for whatever reason.
I would think if you click on the YouTube.
Oh, once you click on,
you just lose your,
if you click on that, you go to YouTube and you're out of the system. So you have to tell your users don't leave the site.
So that's like something that works better when there is consent.
Yeah, there's consent. You actually
It's like an alternative to
your content creator would have to kind of let them know, because, all right, it's kind of like watch the video on this side or that side. How people say watch me on Twitch rather than YouTube or something like that. But it's basically you're going to have to get the users to go over and follow the leader. So I guess that is kind of the barrier. It's just, to me, that's experimental. Most of the users I know go for straight up mining.
And why not just host the video on your own server?
That's a good question. I'd have to get funding to do an entirely new business. So if anyone wants to get me involved in a startup that just we're doing, actually, I take that back. BitTube is doing that. You know what BitTube is? But they started their own coin. And I'm kind of aware of this because the Not Given guy said he's considering adding their algorithm. So basically, you go to BitTube and you watch videos, and it's mining while it does it. But I've been so busy I haven't even looked at it. But I know they do it and they're trying to. But yeah, if you want to do that as an idea where you're mining instead of ads, you can hire me as an advisor or whatever. But my world is doing something completely different. It just kind of was an experiment for one of the users that asked me if I could try it. So, which happens a lot. There's a lot of these things that are just kind of like side experiments to what we can do with it.
You might or might not know about this, but is there a way, in my head, I think there's a way you can make a YouTube video unlisted but still embedded with a thing in the URL?
Yeah, I think you can. I mean, I'm not a content creator, so I post videos, but I never intend to make money off them. It's like tutorial videos, how to set up rewards and stuff. You could probably do that, but again, you'd have to get your users to only go to that site. I guess you could do premium videos or something.
Because I noticed that for the Patreon people, there's a feature in Patreon where you can release videos or blog posts just for Patreon. And these videos are actually hosted on YouTube. I was surprised to learn it. And when I clicked on it, it was this video that had 6 orders of magnitude less views than the content creators' regular videos, because it was only viewable through the Patreon link. But YouTube is still hosting it, so that's something.
Yeah, I mean, you could do this. I think the main issue is that the bandwidth. It's not that hard to actually host videos locally on YouTube, and also, but then you become you have to manage you have to figure out who's posting what crazy video or whatever. So that's something I don't want to get into. It just sounds like a nightmare. But I mean, I could definitely help somebody start a site like that if they're interested. But I don't want to get. That's the thing is I like my system I got now because I'm dealing directly with admins who run their own sites, not with their end users, which saves me trouble because I have no idea. They will try to break into their servers all the time. There's people trying to break into my servers all the time too, but not like the people who have gift cards and rambling on about. They'll come to me if they have somebody broken. It's make sure it's not my plugin, I swear. All right, so I guess we got sidetracked, which is fine.
James, I don't know how much you can to go. Just maybe 10 minutes.
Okay. let's just jump to the security, because I'm sure here's some of the console. Like this will be posted somewhere. It's actually if you go to VidYen.com/presentation, there's a link to this. So this is kind of like some of the back-end stuff. Here's my plugins on WordPress. Pretty much if you're not technical, you can just install it. Like that's the VidHash, less than 10 users. But the nice thing is that one of those 50 users, like he may have 2,000 users on his site, so I don't have to deal with his users. So use cases, UNICEF was using CoinHive. I emailed them to see if they need an alternative, but they never got back with me. I'm actually creating this little video game or a community server based on a video game that I got accepted to run my own server. I'm going to actually try to sell mining hashes to like in-game currency. Okay, ethics. My opinion, the consent is required, just like ads and cookies. Users should be educated. They should have control over the experience, because you probably have no idea if they have a good computer, bad computer, or on their phone, so you should give them some type of control. And the users probably should know you're making money off of this. I know it's, like when you're watching ads, it's kind of assumed, but some people still don't understand cryptocurrency. So you say, hey, this is making me money. Because some people, when they find out, they get really furious for some reason. Some ethics. Here's something I was telling before. In Japan, they get really weird about JavaScript, even if it's just like this really four-window loop. So a lot of the CoinHive cases are coming out of Japan. And this just happened. I was searching for news articles. Apparently, the court in Yokohama District, Japan, declared it CoinHive was not a virus, so web mining is not a virus. But they do say if you're doing it without consent, it's still violating the cookies like GDPR, and you can't collect personal information and so on. So to secure yourself, the easiest way, if you haven't already, is install a Brave browser. I'm not a fan of the token, but they were the first one, and I actually went on their forums and asked them, I noticed my miner doesn't work when I alt tab or minimize or switch tabs. So, oh yeah, we do that. And just recently, Chrome did it, Firefox, and even Edge does it now. So that part's fine, but usually Brave has a little bit step further. If it's a known, like if I go to Manero Ocean, it's blocking one or two things. It's blocking the miner, I think. So that's probably easiest and cheapest. Actually, it's blocking the Google part. It depends. It depends. I think he might have made it a little harder to. Oh, I'll mess with it later. But the other ones, the other alternatives are uBlock Origin for people who just love Chrome. It's really, this one's a little bit, it's stricter. It actually, to me, when I go to CoinHive, it actually won't load the page, where Brave will, but it turns off all the miners. The most strictest is the NoScript, which actually, I think I had running. But unfortunately it breaks everything. So it's kind of like you have to whitelist everything. So it's just one of those, if you're going to sites that you don't really trust and you know your browser keeps locking up, not now Firefox, it will generally, I think if I go to, let's just show a site like CNN, it basically makes it unusable, but it blocks, like this will block all JavaScript, and you can turn it on as you wish. But I'd only recommend it if you're worried about, you have to visit these sites on a regular basis, and I don't know if you're going to Pirate Bay. That's pretty much, I guess that would be the use case. And Malwarebytes Premium does a pretty good job, but you're going to be paying a monthly subscription unless you can, if you want to install and reinstall, because it would I test it with my stuff, because it'll it'll give me a big red arrow when I go to Manero Ocean, because that's on a list. Even though Manero Ocean isn't really doing malware, because it has the word Manero in it, it'll block it. So generally anything that's mining will block. So questions?
All the mining that's being done, are the individual nodes or the browser processes coordinating each other, or is it all static stabs in the dark? Do you want to divide and conquer on the work, or is this?
There's it's the Webminer pool group is more like an open source community. It's I would say we're kind of relying on Not Given, but not anymore. He just kind of keeps doing it. So we kind of follow his lead in a sense. When there's a fork, he kind of handles that. But if necessary, I'm sure somebody else could take over because it's all available. And generally, since he's not very communicative, it's usually between me and the other users. Like the Apple issue, there was the I kind of started a Discord on the side. And a lot of these people are very private. They don't like to give personal information. One complained to me that I posted a YouTube video and he says he said it's stealing my personal information when he posted that video. It's like, it's YouTube, it's down. Anyways, they're very eccentric sort of people, but me and him kind of worked together to figure out the iOS bug, so we kind of realized we have to lock it at 2 threads, and pretty much there's no one else out there. There's like things like Spare Change, which is like a CoinHive competitor, but there's not really an open source kind of thing that's kind of started like this.
So folks, I know you do other mining stuff as well, and like you have so many machines and stuff like that. So I was curious what you think about Monero's strategy in general, trying to outrun ASICs with these hard forks every 6 months. The reason I guess I'm pro Manero is because they did that simply because it made web miners more profitable. It's not such a big issue now because we're not mining Manero specifically, we're mining the altcoins. But I do feel like it has its place. One could argue that it doesn't matter for Bitcoin, but some people were afraid that Bitmain was going to take over the network at some point for the bear market, and they almost went back. Well, they made some bad financial decisions anyway with Bitcoin Cash, but there was a fear that because they had all the ASIC market, they could literally do a 51% attack. So it is a possibility, and I kind of keep with Manero because it's easier for low-end machines to mine on that network. It's not because of ideology reasons. For me, it was the most profitable to kind of pursue. Any other questions? And just giving a shout out, I was going to show off basically the most popular of all these miners, at least with my users, is the straight up miner you kind of leave in the background. And I think this is just this is a little self-advertising. Is that people like earning points, especially video game players. So I think maybe CoinHive's greatest decision was going with the silent miners where no one got recognition, whereas you can earn these little rewards. Even if you have a donation site and all you have listed these coins, this person mined the most. I think people go for that more than I just found out the site was mining me without my permission. So just a little plug there. So we can hang out here for another maybe 10, 15 minutes. We would appreciate anybody who can give a hand with cleaning up the chairs and putting the tables back. Ryan is going to lead back